Hi, Joel.
Hi, Virginia. How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I am great. Good to see you.
I am so honored and excited to have you on the Divine Dialogues after getting to meet you in Mike Dooley's Infinite Possibilities community. And I would love for you to just kind of tell everyone a little bit about yourself, what you do, who you are, what you're up to.
Sure. So for me, most important is, especially since it was just Father's Day, but not especially, I am a dad to two amazing, beautiful, caring, thoughtful women. I guess I have to call them women now. They're 15 and 17, Lauren and Morgan. And Lauren is an amazing singer and dancer and actor. And I was really excited to see her last Monday on stage in person for the first time in 15 months. And Morgan is an amazing tennis player, really smart, wonderful, caring, thoughtful, intelligent, beautiful woman. So first of all, that's most important to me. My company, Sol Lorimore, is named after my daughters, Lauren and Morgan. So that's, live it every day. And I do what I do for them. I remember when I got divorced in 2007, that, what spurred me was to make sure that I would be able to pay my child support and fund their college education and really do things for them. And so I am a former hedge fund manager. I managed almost $700 million at Citigroup. I started my own hedge fund after getting laid off from Citigroup with the rest of my group when a law was passed that banks can't own hedge funds. So I started my own fund, and then I shut that down in 2016. I had an epiphany in December 2015 that my true purpose in life was actually coaching people. So I call myself a prosperity coach. I've been doing it for about 5 years, and I teach Mike Dooley's concepts of infinite possibilities infused into my prosperity coaching. I teach people how they were born to thrive, how they should be financially free. And if they're not, there's a reason why. And so we overcome what I call money blocks, shifting them from limiting beliefs to empowering beliefs, shifting them from scarcity and lack to abundance and prosperity. And so I do one-on-one coaching, I do group coaching, I do workshops. I'm really excited to be starting a membership in just a couple of months, which is going to be almost free. And I've written a few books as well.
And what is your most recent book?
That is what I'm doing now. My long history in my most recent book is called Infinite Love and Money. Here it is. So Infinite Love and Money, I wrote with another Infinite Possibilities trainer and trailblazer, Mollie Singh. She's a master couples coach. And we had the idea to come together. I had an epiphany back in 2018 when I was coaching somebody who was not talking to his wife about money and said, "Oh, I handle it all myself." And I'm like, man, this can't be good. And so I reached out to her after having the conversation with him, the client at the time. And I said, we need to write a book because I know the number one reason why couples divorce is money. And we want to end the number one reason why divorce happens. And so we came together, Mollie Singh and I, and that book just came out in May of 2021. And yeah, the goal is to have couples communicate better about money. So there's not the fighting, the arguments. We created 7 money personality types. And so you can do, actually, if anyone who's watching right now, they can text to the number 66866. That's 66866 ILM for Infinite Love and Money. And you'll get my our 7 money personality type survey. So you can figure out what money personality type you are by actually doing a survey. You may have an idea of what you are, but if you do the survey, you'll know who you are.
Wow. I love that. It's like, you know, we all know about, or a lot of us know about love languages, but they're money languages.
And also everyone, some people know about the Myers-Briggs Test.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the equivalent for money personality type. So if you know your personality type, this is the money personality type. And what we say in the book and what I say is about any personality type is they're fluid.
Mm.
If you ask me, I would say I'm an introvert, but in certain aspects of my life, I'm an extrovert. And so what we say in the book is you may have a primary money personality type and a secondary and a tertiary, and it may depend on if you're alone or maybe you're out with a group. If you're single, then you get married and you get divorced, you're going to have different money personality types. So it's fluid. It depends on the situation, but you usually have one primary and then a secondary and maybe even a tertiary.
Right. So two questions. One, what does it mean to be financially free, in your words? And then what are some of the main blocks that you encounter that are some of the main things that are keeping people from being financially free?
Great question. So this is how the non-math answer to what does financial freedom mean to you? To me, it means spending as much time as I want with the ones I love.
Oh.
Wherever I want to do that, where I want to do it, where I love doing it, for as much time as I want doing it. So that is my qualitative answer. The quantitative answer is, as being a former actuary and majored in math and statistics, I'll tell you that it's having enough funds where the return on those funds cover your expenses so you don't have to work. So let me give you a math example. Let's say and this is just for easy mathematical calculation. Let's say your expenses are $5,000 a month. That's $60,000 a year. Then you would need $1 million, earning 6% interest to cover those expenses, and then you're financially free. So then the question is, what are those investments? So the investments have to be earning a return today. It can't be your house because you're not selling your house. It can't, and you're not getting income from your house unless you have a house that is generating rental income. You can't include your house. And I say, don't include your 401k or any retirement funds, because if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, you're not tapping into that money today. So you can't generate income from it today. So I say anything that's generating income today. It could be a book you wrote. So it's passive income. It could be a YouTube channel you have where you're charging somebody 99 cents to subscribe. It could be, an Amazon fulfillment business. It could be stocks or bonds or real estate rental income. So anything that's generating income where you don't actively have to work, I'd say if you're working a few hours on it, to me, that's passive income. So that's what financial freedom means to me. It's not, grinding it out. It's having your money work for you rather than you work for your money. And I know most people out there believe you have to work hard to be rich and successful. I will tell you it's the opposite. The rich people know that the way to become rich is have your money work for you, not you work for your money. It's not working hard. We were all taught a lie. I was taught, by my parents. I'm pretty sure my grandparents taught my parents, and my great-grandparents taught my grandparents. You have to work hard to be rich and successful. Not true. It's not true. You have to work smart. You have to take some action. You can't just sit at home all day and meditate and visualize. You have to get out into the world, or at least be on your computer, but you have to take some action. So that's my definition of financial freedom. And then your question, the most common blocks are really, it really does go back to a lot of what Mike Dooley teaches in terms of limiting beliefs. And I know I was brought up saying, We can't afford that. Money doesn't grow on trees. That's too expensive. I literally got screamed at by my dad if I left my room with the light on, and we left the house. Joel, we're not a shareholder of Long Island Lighting Company. Shut that light off. And I'm pretty sure 99% of the world is like, that's how they grew up, right? It's this scarcity mindset. Like, we don't have enough. Like, we're going to run out of money anytime soon, and we're going to be put on the street homeless.
Right.
Well, it's not true. In fact, there are $420 trillion of net worth on this earth, $420 trillion. And there's only 7.5 billion people. That's $50 million per person on average. Now, I'm not a socialist and saying redistribute the net worth of the world, but I'm saying that's average, right?
It's possible,
that's the average.
Is what you're
possible.
saying. Yes.
It's possible, and it should be probable. But the reason is you have these money blocks. Like, we can't afford that. We have to work hard to be rich and successful. Rich people are evil.
Yes.
Heard that a lot. Rich people are criminals. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be hard for you to become rich if you believe that rich people are criminals, because every time you accumulate some money, you're going to have this conflict. Right? Well, rich people are criminals, and I'm a good soul, so I got to let it go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's there. So yeah, can you speak, so guilt, I feel like, is a big part of it. And I can relate to that, even in the way of I'm living this, in a lot of ways, I'm living my dream right now. And, money that has come to me in really beautiful ways has helped make that possible. But it's so easy then. It's almost like you want to get rid of it because you think of the other people suffering and you think, it makes me a bad person to have this much. And that's tough.
You can't help the poor by getting poorer.
Right.
You cannot help the poor by getting poorer.
Right.
The only way you can help the poor is by getting rich. Imagine if you had $10 million.
Yes.
And you could give away 9, and you could help your favorite charities. That should be your goal, to get as rich as possible so you can end heart disease and the terrible diseases out there, to end cancer, to help kids in a town in Africa that don't have enough food, they're barely eating a meal a day, to ensure that there's clean water around the globe so that these people don't have to walk miles to get clean water from the day. That should be your goal. You can't, if you're poor, you can't help them. And if you can't help yourself, you definitely can't help others.
Right.
So get yourself into a position where you can get rich. And I know rich, again, there's some negative attachment to those bad rich people. Well, I will tell you that the richest people I know are the kindest, gentlest, most generous people I know.
Mm. Right. And something I think about a lot too is just being able to employ people. Like, I think of having a lot of money come to me so that I can support all these people helping to build my creative dream that are also living and building theirs. And it's like, if I'm, and when it comes to artistry and doing creative things too, there's a pretty pervasive narrative of the starving poor artist. And that just, that kind of martyrdom, it's like, why?
Well, it's also limiting belief, right? That the perception is you have to be the starving artist. You have to be the starving creative. It doesn't have to be that way. But again, if you believe it, a belief is just a thought you keep on thinking over and over again. So it's not truth. It's just a belief. And so if you believe, there are a lot of amazing artists making millions and millions of dollars out there. So look at those as an example, as opposed to those that are, oh my God, you can't make enough money being an actor or being a singer or dancer or artist or painter. There are people who are making many millions of dollars doing those things. So focus on those.
Right.
You get what you think about most of the time. Earl Nightingale, you get what you think about most of the time. So if you're focused on those people who don't have or the starving actors and actresses.
Right.
That's what you're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually never heard anyone say what you said about how much money there actually is, or how much net worth is in circulation, and that should equal us all, possibly technically being able to have $50 million a piece. I'm going to remember that. That's a good thing to think about.
And by the way, 100 years ago, the net worth of the globe was 1 trillion. So we've created $419 trillion in 100 years. Trillion, not billion, trillion. So Virginia, where did it come from? Where did the $419 trillion come from? It didn't come from Mars. It didn't come from Pluto.
Earth?
It came from ideas. Your amazing ideas and others, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, and you can name, and Bezos and others, have created massive amounts of wealth just from thoughts becoming things.
Oh, dude, I love that. I really love that. And it's a cool way. I mean, at least for me too, who's someone who has a lot of ideas going on all the time. And even just thinking, like, even before maybe they're not manifest yet in the material world, but like ideas are a form of wealth and maybe
Absolutely.
the greatest potentiality.
Absolutely. It's, abundance is a mindset. Prosperity is a mindset. And so it's not about what's in the material world right now, but it's the potentiality of what can come in the future. And just because it's not here right now doesn't mean it's not. This may sound esoteric, but it is here in the non-physical already.
Yes.
Once you've had that thought, once you've had that idea, it's here. It's energy. And it's just transforming from the energy in the non-physical to the physical. And sometimes there's blocks, there's resistance, so it takes some time to manifest. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to manifest. One of my greatest dreams took 15 years, but it happened. And another one of my dreams took 18 months. And another one recently took 6 months. So it depends how much you're resisting. And so once you put that idea out into the ether, it's here.
Amen. So as someone, I mean, I'm so glad to have you on this channel and for people like you to be in the world, because you're one of those people who is a beautiful marriage and integration between these like sort of spiritual, esoteric ideas, and then you're very practical and sort of numbers data driven. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey into expressing more of that sort of spiritual teacher kind of side that you have come into from being like an actuary and hedge fund manager?
Sure. So I think I wasn't conscious of the spirituality part of me, the empathic part of me, consciously of it, but I experienced it in my life way back from when I was an actuary and doing lots of calculations and computer programming and having a dream to manage money. And that was the thing that took me 15 years. I wasn't conscious of the manifestation techniques that I am now, but it did occur.
Right. And
so for me, I think I've been a reader my whole life, and so I've read a lot, but I think the biggest transition happened after I got divorced in 2007, and it was a pretty difficult divorce. We had a 1.5 and 3.5-year-old at the time, and there was a lot of anger. I was very unhappy. I was very sad. It was, gonna not see my daughters every day and the loves of my life. And so in 2008, I started working at Citi as a hedge fund manager, and a lot of stress. And so didn't really have too much time to read, and I really didn't have too much time to even date or see my friends. But I got to a point when I was comfortable. It was my first job managing money, my dream. And in 2009, I went on a date and I met a woman who introduced me to Napoleon Hill. Think and Grow Rich is one of his books that he wrote. She gave me 3 of his books. She gave me Think and Grow Rich. She gave me The Law of Success in 16 Lessons and The Master Key to Riches. And I could lie and say I devoured them right away, but I didn't. It actually took me 9 months to open one of those books. But when I did open Think and Grow Rich, it really resonated with me, and I've literally read it 24 times. 24 times. I read it twice a year. My
Such daughters. A good book.
It's a great book, and I remember reading a little bit of it to Lauren, my oldest daughter, when she was probably 8, and she says to me, "Dad, this book has amazing energy."
Whoa, I just got goosebumps.
And I was like, "Who are you? You're amazing. You're 8 years old." The stories in Think and Grow Rich are just so empowering and so uplifting, and basically telling you that you can do anything. Nothing is impossible. In fact, I quote Napoleon Hill throughout my first book, Mindful Money Management, because I was so uplifted by his teachings. And he says, cut out the word impossible from the dictionary.
Yes.
And it's just the stories that he tells, it really empowers you to know that you can have anything you want. It was written between 1918 and 1937.
Right.
And he was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie, who was the richest man in the world at the time. And Andrew said to Napoleon, "I'm not going to pay you to write. I'll pay for your expenses, your travel, and you can't write this book for 20 years. And he gave him a minute to decide. And Napoleon, who had a wife and a young child at the time, agreed to not get paid to write. So Andrew Carnegie gave him access to the richest men and women of the world. So he traveled around the globe interviewing them over the next 15 years. And then he wrote this book. And he wrote other books too. He wrote pamphlets. He got paid for those, but he was not going to get paid for a book for 20 years. And he agreed. Imagine, how much faith he had to do this. But he also knew he would have access to the most wealthiest, richest, successful people in the world. So it's a really awesome book, case study of what the attributes are of successful people. And so that's why I read, and I say every time I read it, it's different because I'm different. I get something different out of it. So for me, that really changed my life. When I read it, I remember like the light bulb went off. And in fact, I think the first 4 words of the book are, "Indeed, thoughts are things."
Yes. I think you're right, which is like TBT, Mike Dooley, thoughts become things.
Right. So this was, 100 years ago that he wrote this book, almost, right? It came out in 1937, but he started writing in 1918, and these concepts have been around for millennia, probably, right? But it's just repackaged and repurposed. But that really resonated with me, and then I started on this journey, and the stories I have about manifestations, that's what I'm teaching, why I'm what I'm teaching, because my experience in my life, I know I'm no more special than anyone else on this earth. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. I can manifest millions of dollars, you can too. And it's not beyond the reach of anyone. I remember I was going out with a woman in 2009, and I was trying to, or maybe it was 2010, right after it happened. And I was trying to teach her, explain to her, and she's like, "Joel, but I have this job and you had that job." I'm like, "It's not about your job. It's nothing to do with it. It's thoughts becoming things."
Yes. So what is the role? I don't know how to ask this question exactly. I'm just remembering the story, and I'd love you to retell it, of the license plate synchronicity, and sort of just like that integration between like intuition, inspiration, synchronicity, and then, practical action, basically.
Yeah, so in my second book, The 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use, rule number 2 is trust your intuition. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be no financial advisor or financial planner out there who's going to say, hey, trust your intuition, pick a stock this way. But I will tell you, when I was managing $700 million at Citi, that if I didn't trust my intuition, I either made less money or I lost money. And my clients now ask me, Joel, how do you develop your intuition? And I say, you develop your intuition just like any other muscle. So I used to go to the gym and do my bicep curls. Now I do my push-ups, but so utilize it, develop it every chance you get. And you make hundreds, if not thousands of decisions every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in New York. What if you're on the subway platform and the local train is sitting there, but the express is coming in a couple of minutes? What do you do? Take the local, wait for the express. Local, express, what do you do? Trust your intuition.
Yes.
So every Thursday morning, I used to take my daughters to school, and we had options. We could take the highway, we could take the local roads, or we could hitchhike. Just kidding. Just kidding. So generally, my intuition would tell me to take the highway. But there was one particular day, the highway was all backed up with traffic. So my intuition was still telling me to take the highway, but my intellect said local roads. So I go local. So the highway's backed up with traffic. And immediately I hear the sirens. I see the flashing lights. And because I didn't trust my intuition, it cost me a $150 speeding ticket.
Ooh.
And to this day, my daughters tease me and they call me Speedy Pants.
Speedy Pants. Ooh. Yeah.
So how can you develop your intuition? Every decision you make, think about what you're going to use your intellect or you're going to use your intuition. So another example was when I was managing money at Citigroup in 2008, we did our analysis and we analyzed this company and we knew it was overvalued. So we bet it was going to go down. It's called shorting. Shorting is when you bet a stock is going to go down. And so this was March of 2008. A couple of months later, my analyst comes to me and says, Joel, it looks like it's going back up. We should get out. Now, my intellect agreed with him, but my intuition was saying, don't touch it. It's going lower. What did I do? I listened to my analyst. I listened to my intellect, and we got out. And 2 days later, the stock's down 10%. Now, annualized, that's like 10 times your money. And my intuition is still screaming, even after it was down 10% more, it's screaming at me, it's going even lower. So I didn't do any analysis. Don't tell anybody. I didn't do any analysis. I just bet again that it was going lower. 4 months later, we had made 60% on our money. 60% of the money. That's almost 2 times in a year annualized by trusting my intuition.
Wow.
So let's talk about license plates. In 2010, I'm actually driving into Manhattan from Boston. I had been with an analyst who had taken me to a Yankee Red Sox game. I'm a big Yankee fan. And so it was a special evening, and I stayed up in Hartford and then drove all the way home, rushing back to Citigroup on the west side of Manhattan. And I'm on the West Side Highway and, trying to get through all this traffic and not being the most spiritual guy out there, honking the horn and, doing what I did back then. And this guy, this guy cut me off. And what I did back then, started cursing him out. But then I looked at the license plate. And the license plate said AMG and then 4 numbers. And AMG is a stock called Affiliated Managers Group, AMG. And we owned it. And I was like, oh my God, look at that. What does that mean? And then it hit me. My intuition was telling me buy more. So I called up my trader and he says, why? And I said, don't ask why, just do it. What do I say to the trader? I just got an intuitive hit from a license plate from a car that cut me off that we're supposed to buy more. Imagine that conversation. So I didn't tell him. I do have this, by the way, this whole story and another 4 or 5 or 6 other license plate stories in the 9 Money Rules. So if you want to hear all my stories about license plates, it's in there. So it's open to the world. I opened the kimono. I didn't hide anything. So I started seeing stock symbols in license plates from that day. And sometimes I would see 3, 4, 5, 7 license plates with the same stock symbol. In fact, I talk about this one stock, FRF, which was the company was acquired, Fortegra Financial, FRF. And I started managing my own hedge fund in 2013. And in January 2014, I started seeing the stock symbol. And I was like, got to buy a little bit more. Every time I see it, buy a little bit more. And there was one day in February of 2014, I saw it 10 times, which is, and I remember somebody who read the 9 Money Rules telling me, the beta reader, saying, don't quote this number, but it's the probability of seeing FRF 10 times on 10 different cars even if you assume that all the cars' license plates start with F, it's 1 in over 10 trillion. Woo! 1 in over 10 trillion. Okay, it's like impossible. Even if all the license plates, and there are a lot of license plates are in my neighborhood starting with F, but not all of them, of course. But anyway, let's just say it's 1 in 10 trillion. So that happened that day. And then after that day, it didn't really happen that much. Maybe once in a while, I'd see the FRF. In August of 2014, August 7th of 2014, I'm walking into the office and I get a text from my colleague that FRF had just gotten acquired for a 40% premium. And we made more money than I'd ever made in one day managing money in my life.
That is so cool. And you forgot, you didn't finish saying what had happened with the AM, how much did the AM whatever one increase by too? Because that one ended up being
yes,
awesome.
I think that was, it was like 30% in like 3 weeks or something. Like, again, like if you, it's very unlikely that stock's going to go up 30% in 3 weeks. If you annualize that, that's 51 times in a year, 51 times. You put in $10,000, you have 5 million at the end of the year. So these things don't happen. It's just, yeah.
So do you think that, I mean, when I hear these stories, it makes me feel like we're given this gift in our intuition if we would just trust it, because the universe wants us to be taken care of.
Yes.
It's like always showing these ways, but we're like, oh no, it can't be that easy, or that doesn't make sense.
And I will tell you, it's still, even to this day, when I see license plates, it doesn't actually, for me, it doesn't mean I actually still see FRF, by the way. The company's been acquired. It doesn't exist. The stock symbol doesn't exist anymore. But and I say this in the book, FRF now means to me have faith. have faith in your dreams and desires.
Yes.
So, and the other point being that it doesn't necessarily mean the stock's going to go up, because I have seen license plates. In fact, in the last 3 months, I've seen license plates where the stock went down a lot.
Right.
After I saw the license plate. So it just means pay attention. It means pay attention. Things are going to move. You can make money either way. You can make money by betting the stock's going to go down or up. So yes. So and it's really hard even for me today, because we're all taught to trust every head-based, right? You have to intellect, not intuition, not heart-based.
Right.
But the intuition, the heart is probably so much more abundant, so much more prosperous than we could ever imagine. And so to be open with you, I still have a hard time completely trusting those intuitive hits. And I remember I was in a mastermind group, and in 2013, when I started my fund, 2014, and woman, not to be chauvinistic, but women are close, sometimes they trust their heart a bit more than men.
Yeah.
And so she said to me, Joel, why don't you okay, because I was open with them. I was saying this is happening. They said, it's your fund. Just start, just put a small amount in, do 3 a day or do 2 a day, use your intuition. And so because I felt once it's my, I'm managing my fund and I have to trust, all my investors have to trust me that I'm doing the right thing. I can't just use a license plate or use my intuition. I have to document it. How do I document that? Right? I had to document every position. So I started small and started making some money, and then started making more money. I'm like, man, I should get bigger, put more than just a small amount in. And I missed out, and my investors missed out on larger amounts of money over the 3.5 years I was managing money, because I didn't trust it big. I didn't trust it to make the positions even bigger.
It takes practice. Because
it takes practice. I mean, I'm learning still to this day. I manage my own portfolio, and I will tell you, almost every day I see license plates with stock symbols, which again, just even the likelihood of, and just to be open with you, I don't know every single stock in the world. There are 5,000 stocks, and not all of them are 3-letter stock symbols. So, and I probably know 400 to 500 financial stocks. That's the main stocks I managed. So I know about 500 stock symbols. So when you see, and I don't drive that much, I'm working from home still. So I have been to a couple of networking parties I'm pretty excited about the last couple of weeks. I'm going to one tomorrow, but I don't drive that much. So I'm jogging every day, and that's where I see the license plates. Or if I visit my parents, and so I was driving yesterday visiting my parents, an 1.5-hour drive each way, and I probably saw 6 stock symbols, that license plates that had stock symbols. Happens every day.
Yeah, and I think, when we develop that relationship with our intuition, there is a framework, or maybe multiple frameworks, that emerge for us to have that conversation. Like for me, it's a lot more in nature, like seeing butterflies and dragonflies and certain types of flowers hold all these meanings for me. For you, it's license plates. But where are you putting that faith and that meaning? And it's going to talk to you.
And the other thing I want to point out to anyone watching is, if you take a baby step, the universe has 100-mile-per-hour wind blowing behind you. So it's just start, take a little crawl.
Yes.
Take that baby step, because once you do, you're showing the universe that you have faith, right, in your dreams and desires, and you're taking some small action, and then things you'll have no idea how the universe has your back, and things you can't explain. I mean, I've had so much happen in the last 15 years since I've been believing in this stuff that you can't explain it. And TSW, this stuff or the other S works.
This shit works. Yeah. And, we get, as Mike Dooley calls them, the cursed hows, but it's just like, I'm reading a really great essay right now by Ralph Waldo Emerson that's called Nature. And he talks about that too, like why do we feel like we have to say how, or we have to know how, or we have to explain how it works, when sometimes it's like, isn't it enough that it is? Like, can't you just be thankful?
Yeah, I think I think we're brought up to focus on how it has to happen.
Yes.
And I teach my clients, look, I don't think we're smart enough to know like all the different potential possibilities.
Trillions, zillions.
Right. It's just, if you have, 7.5 billion people, like you just don't know. Like I just think about like, so I'm still single and I have no idea where that woman's going to come from. I just so why limit it to an app or a networking part? Like just, it could be traveling. It could be, jogging. You just don't know. There's so many possibilities. And it's the same thing with money and abundance. You just don't know where it's coming from. I recently just had somebody sign up for my platinum plan. I didn't have a platinum plan, but he asked, and I created one for him. But if you had asked me, and so I put a number out there, and I'm all about not setting deadlines. But in January, I put out a number to manifest for myself this year. And I've manifested. It's been 6 months. I've manifested now, but I didn't say, how's it going to happen? I didn't say it has to be this client.
Right.
I didn't even say it has to be for my business or for my book, from Infinite Love and Money that came out this year. I had no idea. I didn't attach to the result. And this is how it happened. Like if it came from I don't play the lottery. I guess it could have come from something like the lottery, but checks in the mail, they do happen. But again, I think you have to get out into the world and take some action. So I just show the universe every day that, I'm here to help, and the money just flows. And if you had asked me on January 1st, how's it going to flow? I really don't care.
Right. I just know that I have it, and it doesn't matter how.
And don't put a deadline. That's for me the biggest. When I manifested a few $1 million, I didn't put a deadline on it to say, okay, it's coming this year or it's coming in the next 6 months. Because aren't you ecstatic if you manifested a couple $1 million? Wouldn't you be like, okay, if it came in 2021 or 2023, I'm pretty ecstatic, right? So
yes,
to me, like putting a deadline is like, for me at least, I would stress over it. I'm like, okay, I'm only 5 days away, and it's, where is it coming from?
Right. And that's like, when I think about that too, it's like, even the Bible talks about this, but whether it's about magic or manifesting or faith, there's basically this rule that's like, as soon as you put that energy forth of, I'm not going to believe you until you prove yourself, like, right. Oh yeah, you can do that, then prove it. It's like, it's gone. So when you're like, if you're not here by this day, then I know you're not going to come at all. It's like, okay.
Yeah. When I told you the story about cotton balls, yes. When I manifested cotton balls, I actually, and I think a lot of this has happened recently as well, is so you focus on something that you want, but don't white knuckle it.
Right.
Kind of like, you want it and then just let it go. Don't attach to the result. And that happened when, so I thought about cotton balls every day, every morning and every night in February of 2008, February, March. And then I say this in the 9 Money Rules Millionaires Use. I tell the complete story. What happened in April was I kind of like let it go. I said, okay, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be, but I'm not going to fixate on cotton balls anymore. I fixated on them for 60 days or 75 days, whatever it was. And then on May 31st, I'm jogging with my daughters. Actually, I was pushing them in the double jogging stroll at the time. And we're at the playground and I'm letting him out. And I look over and I see all over the playground, hundreds of cotton balls. So, and I think the point is like, I wanted it. And then I let it go. It's like, okay, I'm not attaching to the result. I don't need it to happen. I'd really like it to happen. And if it happened next month or next year, it'd be really cool and it'd be an amazing manifestation, but I don't need it to happen.
And was that a test for you of like a manifestation test that you set?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was from the book, The Secret, and the guy thought about the feather. And then in The Secret, it says, you try. And for me, I said, okay, I'm going to try cotton balls. I don't know why. That's the first thing that popped into my head. And it was a test. It was my test to say, okay, to myself, if I can do this, I can do anything.
Yes.
And I think it, like, don't start with, I mean, I love people who say, I dream big, because I want you to dream big and dream bigger. But start with something small, because, and nobody will tell you this, because if your belief level on a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is absolute faith and knowing it's going to happen, and 1 is massive doubt, there's no way in heck it's going to happen. And if you're not a 7, 8, 9, or 10, it's not going to happen. So why pick $10 million first?
Right.
Like somebody actually in my mastermind group 9 years ago said, I'm going to be a billionaire. I said, cool. Are you a millionaire yet?
Yeah, exactly.
No. He said, no. I said, let me explain to you the difference between a billion and a million. A million is dollar bills from the floor to the ceiling in my living room. That's a million. A billion is 1,000 of these rooms. You got to go blocks and blocks with this room. That's the difference between a million and a billion. So what's your belief level that you can manifest a million? Oh, that's high. That's a 9. Okay, well, why don't we start there?
Yes.
Or maybe even better, start with a 500,000.
Right.
What's your belief level there? Oh, I'm a 10. I know that's going to happen. Great. Start with a 500,000. Do that. Take a baby step. And then once you've done that, go to 1 million. And once you've done that, maybe go to 5 or 3 or 2. Yeah. Now, starting on smaller scales. So I actually had a client who was in my manifesting group last year, and he said he wanted to manifest $6,000. He really needed to have $6,000. And so he did it. And he did it in like 6 weeks. And my program's 3 months. I said, okay, let's go to 60. He said, Joel, I don't believe that's how in God's name. This was the quote. How in God's name am I going to manifest $60,000? And I said, but you just did 6. He said, but that's 10 times. I said, okay, how about 9? Oh, I can do 9. Great. So start with something you believe in. If you don't believe in it, it's not happening. And no one will tell you this. The magic of thinking big, dreaming big, dream big, dream bigger. Start with something you believe in. Start with a cotton ball. Start with a paper clip.
Right. And you can't fool yourself. That's what it comes down to. It's like, sure, you can be like, oh, like whatever I think will happen all day long. But as you know, Neville Goddard would tell us, it's feeling that is the secret. If you can't feel it to be true, then you're really just thinking that that's not going to happen, even if you're trying to fool yourself.
Yeah, Wayne Dyer in his book Wishes Fulfilled said, make your future dream a present reality by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Make your future dream a present reality by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So you're right. If you can't feel the feeling, if you don't believe it and feel it in your heart of hearts, it's not happening.
Amen. Well, Joel, I'm just so delighted that you're in my life and that we're part of a shared community. And I'm very excited to link in the about section of this video to all of your books, your websites, your community, your programs. And if there was, just any sort of thought that or inspiration or help that you could leave anyone who might be listening to this with, what would you impart?
Doubt the doubt. Hashtag doubt the doubt. When I wanted to be a hedge fund manager, 1993, I had so much doubt. I went to other people and they gave me more doubt. Right. And so like everyone I went to, was just adding, piling on. So have faith. Why do you have faith in your doubt?
Yes.
Doubt your doubts.
Yes.
And have faith in your dreams. And if you could just pull back and say, every time you have doubt, use Andy Dooley, stop, cancel, clear, get the fear out of here, right? So that's your doubt, and stop. Like, I do it all day long. Look, I'm not no nearly perfect. So I have negative thoughts all day long, and I'll stop myself and say, hey, stop, cancel, clear, doubt the doubt, get out of there.
I love that. You've given so much beautiful, practical, as well as esoteric and inspirational wisdom. I'm really just gonna bring the good energy of this into the rest of my day. And thank you so much, Joel.
Thank you for having me. I hope the people who are watching, I help at least a few people today. So thank you.
It'll find the right people.
Yes.